stadium, but after reviewing and looking at everything with the film and this last game, I'm happy to get the win. What a great battle. It was one of those games that kind of fit in alignment with all the other games that we've been able to see. That came down to the wire, and so worked out in our favor. But I thought it was a great battle between two teams, and a great rivalry. It's why it's such a special game, and that's why I'm excited that game is going to be back, and it'll be back every year with us being the same conference. And the energy in that stadium was awesome. I thought all the Utah fans did a great job at creating that home field advantage. Also really appreciate all our BYU fans that came and were able to find tickets. That was a really cool game to see as much royal blue as we could in that stadium. But what a great atmosphere, great game, and really feel good about some of the things that we did in that game. Obviously, as a team, we didn't think we did our best consistently enough, but we did enough to get the win. And we knew that Utah would come out with there's a lot of uncertainties, one being who's going to play quarterback, what scheme they're going to do. And I thought the guys were able to just kind of feel it out a little bit and then settle down and just play football. Defensively, really proud of the adjustments they made. The ability to get a shutout in the second half gave us that chance to get that win. And the offense did enough. Special teams was a definite positive for us. Getting turnovers was helpful as well. So winning the turnover battle and playing clean football helped us out. So it was a tough sledding against that defense. It's a great defense. We knew that going into the game, and but glad that we were able to get the plays made in the last drive and get ourselves set up for that game-winning field goal. So looking forward to this next week, though, and excited about our team and our players. Just stay humble and stay hungry. We got to keep working. Glad that we got to enjoy the energy, the festivities, all that stuff, and came home and the entire rock section was here, greeted us off the buses, which made us getting home and getting to bed a lot later than we anticipated. But we were able to get enough sleep, get to church, and enjoy the win. But now we got to get back to work and move on to the next one. So as much fun as that game was, now we go back to our same process of learning from the game, trying to find a way to get better and improving from it, and then now moving on to the next one and doing it with the ability of staying humble and staying hungry and getting back to work. So that's what we're going to do this week, and I'll take any questions you guys have.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with questions from Jared Lloyd and then John Kuhn.
Ronnie, I was interested in what it's like, not just this last Saturday, early Sunday, but after, when you come home and have the fans waiting at the airport or when they met the buses. We get to talk to you after the game, but what's it like, later in the evening when you come back and everybody's there supporting you and, you're wrapping up a win like that?
Well, that was awesome to have. It was literally thousands and thousands of students and fans, and the majority of them being our students here on campus. But I know there are some others that were there too, and I appreciate them. A lot of others just probably didn't think the trip would be good enough at being that late at night. But all these young people were there and had so much energy that it was hard not to give it back to them, So when we stepped off the bus, it took a while, but they crowded the buses, and it was an awesome sight, a lot of fun for the players, and just really had fun. Will Farron got the crowd surf with Cosmo, and so that I think I probably hit the weight limit, so I couldn't do the crowd surfing, but that's okay. My body type should never do that, but it was cool. Just want to thank all the fans that were here and gave us all that energy, and just we felt it, and it's been a lot of fun, man. Just really happy for the players, but even more happy for the fans. I'm glad that they enjoyed that win, and looking at it from my perspective, though, it's what can we do to make sure that we can play better going into this next week, and praise to some of the really cool things that we saw that we did well this week. So that was in that Utah game. So that was a lot of fun, but now we got to separate it and move on. But yeah, it just made us going to bed a little bit later than we anticipated.
A lot has been made, of course, of what Kyle Whittingham and Mark Harlan said after the game about officiating and things like that. And we've talked before, sometimes you get riled up about calls. I think everybody who's passionate about the game gets that way. How do you try and handle those types of moments when things don't go your way or a call doesn't go your way? Or how do you kind of try and address those? What's your approach?
Well, I think you guys seen me in those situations that we've had it. I mean, and I think it's a human reaction to be upset and be frustrated. So that's I know how I can deal with it. I'm not here to tell anybody else how to deal with it. But with that crew, I mean, there are things that didn't go in our favor. And when I talked to the crew and they explained it to me, I mean, one that comes to mind was the face mask. I was obviously frustrated about it because it wasn't a face mask, and I think you can see it on film that it wasn't. So I was upset, and I was getting my words in, and the ref came over to the side and gave me some time and listened to my frustration. Then he sat there and he gave me an explanation, and he said, "Coach, from my point of view, it looked like it was a face mask," and he owned up to it. If I missed it, but from my point of view, I hope you can understand where I'm coming from. And you know what? When you watch it on film, I can see what he saw, and I appreciate the communication. Even though there's some point for me, we just had to move on and get the next call in, and I had to keep coaching. That was part of it. That sometimes it happens, man, and just got to keep moving on. And but I do appreciate them explaining things to me, communicating it to me.
Go ahead, John.
Lonnie, special teams wise, Will Ferrin obviously had his field goals. Keelan Marion had a big touchdown return for you guys. It ended up accounting for most of the points that you guys scored. And looking at just the special teams across your wins this season, they've played a big role in getting you guys points when you needed them. Punting's been crucial in flipping field position. What's kind of key the consistency in that phase of the game for BYU to where you're able to come up with points week after week on special teams?
Well, I think you have to praise a couple things. Number one, of the players taking ownership of the craft and understanding the scheme and executing it, and then just taking ownership of it. The importance of that phase is huge to us. And with that being said, having Kelly Papinga run the special teams has been a huge asset for us. And I allow him to kind of be the bridge from the offense, defense, and allowing special teams to be the bridge between those two phases and being that third important bridge, the glue to the team, where you use both guys from both phases, and you even have your own group of specialists that belong to both sides. And so when you I allow him an opportunity to give his presentations, his vision, and the players have all bought into it. And so K-Pop's done an amazing job at leading in his role, and has done a great job at demanding the most he can out of his players. And that's not an easy thing to do with the limited time that you spend in special teams. K-Pop has to be on top of it, and he has to be really efficient. And he's one of our best coaches because he can be efficient with his time, and he works really well. He has a good gauge on the entire team and their abilities and the potential. So those are the two major reasons why it's been a huge phase for us, and it's been for us, it's been quite the X factor.
Thanks, John. We'll take our next questions from Kevin and then Mitch.
Hey, Kalani, we saw Braden Time go out at the end of the game. How's he doing, and do you think he'll be back this week?
Yeah, we're still reviewing it. Definitely not out for the season, and so there's a possibility that he come back. He's a tough kid. We'll take a look at it. We'll see if he can be able to go this week. If not, then it's got to be the next guy up. But he'll be available, and really today and tomorrow we'll be able to get a good feeling for the time for all that. But unfortunate that it happened. I think he got rolled up on a pressure that was a sack, and he's done some amazing things for us. if he can go, great. And he's tough. If he can go, we'll get him back, and he'll be ready to roll this weekend. If not, then I know he can give us the role that like Connor Pay did for us when Connor was out.
And how have you seen Jeff Grimes' scheme kind of evolve over the last 2 years since he's been around you guys? And do you think the familiarity with him helps this week at all?
I think it's going to help both sides. I mean, he knows a little bit about our scheme, and we know a little bit of his background. And so I think that, A-Rod and Fessy have been able to use a lot of what they bring to the table with TJ Woods and Kevin Gilbride and Harvey Unga. And, so that's been a good mesh of ideas. But looking at it with what we do offensively, I think we kind of pattern it to the talent that we have on the team, and I think Grimes does the same thing. So they're definitely familiar with each other. But when it comes down to it, the players are the guys that are on the field that make the plays.
Kalani, this is Kansas is the second repeat opponent you guys have faced in your conference schedule from last year. How helpful is it in a week prepping for an opponent for the staff and players in your program? To prepare for a team that you've already have some familiarity with from last year?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited because we know that game didn't go our way last year, and it actually started off wrong, and so and we know we could play better than what we did against them. So now they're coming to our house, and we're excited for that opportunity to play them again, and there's a lot of their guys are back, so the matchup's going to be awesome. We know that. They've got a lot to prove, and they had a great game last week. I mean, look at what they did against Iowa State. And so for us, we have to be on top of everything. We see on film how dangerous they are, tons of talent, and I know they're well coached. I mean, I have a lot of appreciation for their coach and for what they've been able to do. And, looking at Lance and the entire program, I mean, they take on his personality, and he's tough and he's rugged, but man, their football IQ is impressive, and they're playing some really good football right now. So I know he'll have them ready to go, and I got to get these guys ready to go for that matchup this weekend.
You were asked about Keim. I wanted to follow up. What's the outlook on Lea Usa this week, and also Connor Pay? Is he going to be back and ready to go?
Yeah, we feel good about Lea Usa being ready to go. Connor will be. It's going to be really close. I mean, I think he could have pushed it maybe against Utah, but I think we did the right thing. But we're hoping to get Connor back this week, and that's kind of, I think, like I said, today and tomorrow will be kind of more of the measurement of if we're going to be able to get that done. So, but we feel good about it.
Thanks, guys. We'll take our next questions from Jake Hatch and then Sean Walker.
Kalani, wanted to ask you, in terms of the schemes that you're running on defense, have they adjusted much from your time at Utah? Because it felt like you guys were running mirror images of one another on Saturday night. Yeah,
very similar. And the defense, I mean, there's only so much defense that you can do, and I think the way that the foundation of it is very similar, and then the matchups very similar, and you look at the offenses. Very similar with a lot of tight end sets and the ability to spread it out, trying to establish a run game. So there's a lot of familiar looks that we saw, and we got to practice against it. It's probably why it ended up being quite a low scoring game. The score was because I think you had some really good teams that know each other, know a little bit about the scheme, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough matchup the entire game, and it came down to the wire, just like a lot of people. We're predicting. Obviously, I feel like we can definitely do some things to help us out the next go round. But I'm really proud of the way the guys played. You have to really admire what was done on both sides of the ball, on both sides of the matchup. And I thought Utah brought a lot of intensity. I thought we were able to do that too, and then just have a really cool, awesome battle. And the end result came down to the wire, and it's a close game. And it seems like that happens quite often, and we were really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be something that can be a huge catalyst for this team. We knew that we had to go into a hostile environment and to do something that BYU hasn't been able to do for a while, and that's win up there. And these guys should be really proud of the way they did it. But with that being said, there's a lot of things that we know we could do better, and I'm sure Utah's doing the same thing. You have to be able to assess how we can improve. But man, I was enjoying the matchup and enjoying the environment. That's what college football should be all about. It was a lot of fun, and man, it was good to have it back.
Also wanted to ask, you're facing off against Jalen Daniels this week. It's one of those weeks you actually know who you're facing, a quarterback. Give us your assessment of him as a player.
No, he's gifted, man. The guy can run and he can throw, and he's a veteran. So it's a difficult matchup. And then they have their running back that's back. I mean, it seems like there's great running backs all over this conference, and he's one of the premier running backs. And so you combine that with a physical line, and then I don't think they get enough credit for what they do on defense. We saw that, how they can create havoc and create some turnovers. And so this will be a great matchup for us. I'm looking forward to us trying to play our best game of the year this weekend, and trying to improve and get some things better and be more efficient as a team than we were even last week. And looking to get that done. And it starts with today's prep and today's practice.
You touched on it a little bit right there, Kalani, but this Kansas team kind of struggled a little bit early, but it feels in some ways like they're coming off of their best game of the year against Iowa State. Just how much confidence are you expecting out of them? And I know the record looks like 3-6, but it seems like you guys have faced a couple of teams with lower records that have been giving you all that you can handle. So just how much confidence are you expecting from this team right now, coming off of the way they played over the weekend?
Well, it's just not all that we can handle. That's kind of what's going on in the conference. There's a lot of parity in the conference, and so and anybody can play and can win at any time. And so this is one of those matchups that you have to take seriously. And I'm excited that we have it at home, but we see the talent that they have, and we have to be on top of our game. I mean, we have to play at our best, because this is another opportunity for us to make another statement and to play another week and to focus on trying to go 1-0. But you get that done by going to work and staying humble and staying hungry for it all. And so we have tons of respect for Kansas. I have tons of respect for their coaching staff. Lance Leipold's an amazing man and coach, and so I have so much respect for him as a leader, and he'll have his guys ready. And you, just like they did last week, they can get up on you and beat a ranked team. So nothing's easy in this conference, and we don't anticipate it being easy. But in order for things to go our way, we have to play at our best every week. This week no different than last week.
We'll take our last question from Jay Drew.
Kalani, the initial college football playoff rankings came out last week. Are you have any interest in talking about that at all, or I'm assuming that it's just a distraction at this point, and you're probably not really concerned on where BYU has landed?
No, I'm not. I wasn't concerned about where BYU was landed in August, and so I'm not going to really worry about it right now either. I'm so focused on getting this team better and improved, and myself. Even when I say this team, it's like, it starts with me. What can I do differently, and how can I improve from last week? And there's a lot of room for me to improve on from last week to now. And so I'm focused on that, focused on what we can do, what we can control with this team, and not worried about the distractions, like you said, whether they're in favor of us or not. I mean, we've got to just go to work and try to find a way to win Super Bowl number 10.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. Have a great week.
Thank you, guys. You up there?
We'll have Darius Lassiter up next if you guys have questions for Darius.
Want to go where? Yeah. What's up, Coach?
Hi, Darius. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
We'll just jump right into questions with Jared Lloyd and then Mitch Harper.
Darius, how do you describe what it's like to get off the plane in the middle of the night or drive up on the bus last early Sunday morning and have all those BYU supporters there showing up, hours after the game ended? What's that like as a player?
Man, it's crazy because being at my last school, you don't really get those kind of experiences, especially at the big wins like that. So just to see everybody still up, still cheering, still happy that we got the job done. It was great.
What's that? What's it like to try and refocus after a rivalry experience like that? You guys have been really good at it over the season of moving on. But what was that process like as you try and switch your mindset from last game to next?
I feel like it's the same thing when we played Oklahoma State. How we came back and won right at the end, and we had to just we celebrated the win, but we had to kind of flush it because next week things could be different, and we can't really dwell on the things that we did in the past. We only can hope to look for the things that we can accomplish in the future. So I feel like everybody knows that what we did last week is not good enough to get the job done for this week. So everybody's ready to look forward to the next game.
Darius, it was the in-state rivalry last week. Maybe now this week's a family rivalry. What's the banter? I know your brother's. I don't think he's with Kansas this season. I think he's just maybe the banter this week between you and your brother.
Yeah, they're all BYU this week. I mean, last year they kind of was split between two, but now that it's just me in college, they're just rooting for the Cougars to win. Even though they got friends, good friends, and coaching staff that they still talk to, they going for Cougar Nation this week.
That was the first Big 12 game for this BYU program. What can you say about the growth that's taken place from that moment in Lawrence last year to now?
I really think is that we just match the intensity of the Big 12 now. First, like last year, our first game, like you said, just being there, we kind of came out flat, and we know that if you do that in this league, that it can kind of get you behind and get you clawing from behind, and that's things that you don't want to do because in this league is a lot of offense that can score a lot of points. So you don't want to play catch up, and so I feel like we just learned from our mistakes last year, and that kind of just put us in the position that we're in now.
We'll take our next questions from John Kuhn and then Jay Drew.
Darius, against Utah, the special teams had 3 field goals. Keelan Marion obviously had the touchdown return on the kickoff. How much of a difference maker has special teams been for you guys from week to week? Because, I mean, this isn't the first time where they've come up with big touchdowns, big plays, when you guys have needed it.
Yeah, special teams has been huge for us. Each week we go over our goals for special teams, and our ultimate goal is to get 9 out of 9 each week and complete all that. Sometimes we go 8 out of 9, and only once we went under 8 out of 9 once this whole year. So we know what it takes and how we can complement the offense and defense with special teams to help put us in positions to win the game. And you see the returns are game-changing plays for us. Without those returns, who knows what the score may be. So we got to continue to attack special teams the way we are, and that's just hats off to Coach K-Pop getting us ready.
Darius, what do you see from JoJo Phillips, the young guy? Maybe who are some of the comps maybe that his game is like, and kind of what kind of progress has he made since you've been around him?
Yeah, just to see JoJo from last year to this year, you can kind of see the growth in his game. The game was just slowing down from him. Last year, he kind of just got thrown in a situation where he couldn't really get situated and get his feet warm, and so a lot of things kind of just moved fast for him. And now this year, he knows what to expect. Just being around guys like Chase, me, Keelan, and Cody, who's kind of been here for a long time. So he's just learning each week. And then Coach Fessie's just getting him ready just to go out there and make those plays. And he has all the ability in the world. So once you put that together, the sky's the limit for JoJo.
Thank you.
Let's go Sean and then Jared.
Darius, I'm glad your brothers and everything are all in on BYU because they're not at KU anymore and whatnot. But does this matchup right here, does it still mean a little bit something extra for you just because of your parents' ties to the university? I think you grew up in Lawrence a little bit. Your brothers played there, obviously, and whatnot. Like, does this game still mean a little bit more to you?
Yeah, most definitely, especially after last year, them beating us and then losing to my brother. That's never a good feeling so he kind of still talks about that. So that's somewhere I wanted to go growing up. Didn't really have that opportunity. So that kind of always just sits in the back of your head. But it's nothing but love between me and the guys over there. I still got friends over there on that team, and then the coaching staff as well that I talk to. So it's in a fine line between liking and a little aggressiveness between us this week.
A little 50-50 between like and not so like, I think is okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay if we call this on the outside the Lassiter Bowl then?
Yeah,
you can't use the Lassiter Bowl.
Yeah, you can do that. That's what my mom was calling it last year.
Awesome.
Darius, obviously a lot of focus this weekend about how much physicality is allowed between receivers and defensive backs. Of course, the call in the Utah game being the high-profile one. How do you describe that? How much physicality is allowed? How do you gauge that as a receiver?
Yeah, I mean, they get up to 5 yards contact with us, and so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not our decision to call. At some point you got to let go and give the receiver a route to get into his route and things like that. So, but at the end of the day, we can't just blame one call on one game the whole time. So it's a lot of things that led up to that. But, sometimes you just got to play through the physicality, because sometimes they're going to call it or not. You got to fight through it. And so sometimes the receivers might push off and the rest won't call it, and sometimes the DBs will hold and they won't call it. So you kind of just got to go with the flow, and whether the rest call it or not, that's just, you got to keep playing through it.
Did you have to adapt your mentality at all as you kind of got acclimated to the Big 12 approach and some of that physicality, or was it more, this is just football, this is what you've seen throughout your career?
Yeah, I think it was more just setting lines, just being like, okay, it's football at the end of the day. It's just different levels, but it's still football, and so it's everything that you've been taught up to this point, and so you just got to go out there and execute and be you what got you up to that point.
All right, Darius, that's all the questions we have for you today. Have a great week.
All right, thank you too.
We'll have Harrison Taggart up next.
How's it going?
Hi, Harry. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing good, thank you. Let's go ahead and start with questions from Jared Lloyd.
I love hearing how you guys describe the atmosphere and the feeling after you got back to Provo. It's happened after, road games when you come back on the plane, but particularly this last weekend. What's that like when you come back and there's thousands of people waiting for you in the middle of the night?
Oh, it was insane. We got back at 3 a.m. We couldn't even get off the bus. There were so many fans. There's no fan base like this one. It amazes me every single week. I thought it was cool when we had hundreds of fans getting off the plane at the airport, but then you get off the bus and there's thousands of fans, and you're scrolling on social media on your way there and you see fans rushing the streets, and I was scared for the fans. You see cars honking and they're just running out there mindlessly, but it speaks to this fan base that we have, and shout out to them. They're amazing.
What's that like as a player, just seeing all of that enthusiasm, and you guys knew how great this fan base is, beforehand, but as it's escalated, as you guys have won and had this success, what is that experience and those emotions like?
It gives you another reason to play. I mean, it's amazing when you have your family behind you, but it's even more amazing when you have your family and then you have thousands and thousands of fans cheering for you. I mean, we see how it is with teams down on that south side of the end zone when they're trying to run the ball or pass the ball on the rock. The center can't hear. They have trouble with communication. So it's awesome. I love it.
Thanks, Jared. We'll take our next questions from John Kuhn and then Sean Walker.
Special teams wise, BYU has consistently been able to produce touchdowns, field goals from that phase week to week. Obviously, Utah, you had 3 field goals from Will Ferrin, touchdown return by Keelan Marion. From the defensive side of things, how much of a difference maker is that consistent special teams play for you guys, and kind of just make it easier to do what you're doing when you see what they're doing.
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, when you can trust all three phases of the football and all three phases of the game are rolling, it's awesome. It's awesome when you have a kicker that's reliable. It's awesome when you have a returner that's reliable. And when you can just trust special teams that they're going to get the job done and they're going to achieve our goals. It's awesome.
Go ahead, Sean.
Harry, obviously coming off of a big win Saturday, in-state win, rivalry win, thousands of fans around the bus, all of that stuff. Is there? I don't want to assume. I don't even want to hint that Kansas is as big of a game as the Utah game. But is there a big game feeling around this weekend at all, based off of what they kind of did to you guys last year? Sort of gave you a little bit of a rude awakening to the conference and that kind of thing. Does that still stick with you guys at all, or?
I mean, every single week is, in my opinion, is a big game. The Big 12 is an amazing conference, and we've seen that. We've seen that last year. We've seen that this year. There's tons of talent in the Big 12. Talking about Kansas, they're an amazing team. Seeing what they did against Iowa State, and then talking about last year, what happened last year, they did give us that Big 12 awakening, which I think gives our team a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. So yeah, I've got a little chip on my shoulder personally, but I'm just gonna do my thing and prep like it's a normal week and go out there and play.
You mentioned all the talent over at KU, and they got a really prolific offense that I think had one of its best games of the year over the weekend. A pretty decent quarterback. Don't know if you've heard about him or not. What's kind of the number one thing that stands out to you about their offense and just trying to slow it down, I guess? Their offense is really dynamic. They have a bunch of weapons, whether it's through their quarterback, their receiver, their running back is really good as well. I think their O-line is really good as well. Overall, they're a well put together team, and just shutting down their weapons, playing how we've been playing ball, and getting the ball back to our offense will be really, really important for this week.
We'll take our last questions from Jake Hatch.
Harrison, you talked about the fact you have a chip on your shoulder, is the term that you use. You've locked down this middle linebacker spot when there were questions about who was going to hold it down, and after Ben Bywater stepped away from the program. Is that kind of part of why you feel like you've been able to kind of lock that spot down and make it your own?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
I was going to say, you talk about having that chip on your shoulder, and I just was saying you have locked down that middle linebacker spot. Does that chip on your shoulder, does that continue to push you to make sure that spot remains yours for the foreseeable future? Yeah,
it definitely gives me that drive to keep going for the future. I mean, last year, this was the game that took Ben down, so that adds a little bit to it as well.
I also wanted to ask you, from your vantage point, when the defensive holding call went down, were you on the sideline? Were you watching that play when it all went down and everything?
Yeah, I was watching the play. The refs are going to make their calls. The refs are going to call what they see. At the end of the day, I was always taught that if you put yourself in the position to bank on somebody making a call for you, bank on somebody making the call against you, the game can go either way. You can't bank on a ref making a call either way. It could have been us in that position. You just can't bank on a ref making a call. If you put yourself in that position, then the game deserves to go either way.
And one other quick one, if I could, real quick. I wanted to ask about facing off against Jalen Daniels, one of the premier talents at quarterback in this conference. What are your thoughts on him?
He's a heck of a player. Very dynamic quarterback. I mean, you watch me. He's a fun quarterback to watch. So just playing our assignment football this week will be very important, and just doing your job.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yep.
Have a great week.
Have a good one. Thank you.
We'll finish off interviews with Sam Vander Haar. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll start with questions from Jared Lloyd and then John Kuhn.
Okay, Sam, what was it like seeing your kicker out there crowd surfing at 3 a.m?
Yeah, no, that was juicing me up. I saw that, and yeah, I mean, he deserves all the credit in the world. Will's, obviously a phenomenal talent, and it's been cool to just kind of be by his side through it all, and to watch him develop even as the season progresses. So, yeah, I know he would have been uncomfortable doing it, which also made it even more funny for me to see. So,
I want to have you describe what your experience on that field goal was like, because your role arguably is the biggest one. You got to catch it and get it in place and then see it go through. Take us through that. What was that like?
Yeah, no, it was good fun. I mean, it's what you train all the hours for, is for moments like that. And I sort of said to Will, regardless of what happens, that I love him and that he's going to be fine regardless of what the result is. And we're cracking jokes kind of on the sideline, as we always do right before we go out. It's just something that we do just to kind of take the result out of it. And I've sort of said in the past with punting as well that if you can take out, I guess, in your mind the result aspect of it, you should be fine, just because you'll kick loose or punt loose. So, and yeah, that's what Will did.
Sam, looking at just the special teams for BYU, consistency from week to week and big scoring plays from week to week. Obviously against Utah, he had the 3 field goals from Will. Keelan Marion had that kickoff return for a touchdown. What has been the key to that consistency? What's been the key to the special teams, for lack of a better way to put it, being special in their play?
Yeah, I think it obviously just starts at the top with the coaches implementing the right scheme for us to go out and succeed, and then all the boys buying in to do it. I've said in the past that if you don't have guys wanting to be on special teams, it's probably going to fail. So the fact that we have guys that are wanting to be out there and wanting to contribute and care about it just as much as offense and defense is probably why it's been so successful for us so far this year.
Go ahead, Jay Drew, and then Sean Walker.
Hey Sam, I was wondering if you can describe Will Farron for us, his personality, what makes him tick. What's this guy like?
Yeah, Will's very humble. It's funny, in the specialist community, they always talk about trying to have amnesia, and he's probably the best I've ever seen at having that mentality of, whether he misses or makes it, just moving on to the next rep. And so I think that's probably what makes him special as a kicker, to be honest. But yeah, he's pretty similar on the field as he is off the field. He's pretty relaxed. I think I'm probably, for the operation, I'm probably the one that gets a little bit too juiced up when he makes a play. So it's kind of a nice balance where he can calm me down and I can get him up. So it's cool.
And then follow up, as an Australian, when you just witness this college football atmospheres in the United States, is it what you expected, or is it as crazy as it kind of seems?
Yeah, no, it's bananas. I've said to the guys back home, like my friends, that it's, until you're in it, you don't really know what it's like with the atmosphere. And I kind of like the animosity that we had on the weekend, because it gets the juices flowing. And yeah, it is very different to anything that you would experience back home. So I love it.
Go ahead, Sean.
Sam, Will touched on something a little bit after the game, and I'm wondering if you could give us some context about how much you guys have practiced just the little things in the kicking game, you at holder, and then, Riggsy with the snap and that kind of thing. Just like, how much do you estimate you guys have gone over all of those little things that obviously is paying off pretty well?
Yeah, a ridiculous amount. I remember when I got here in January, I said to Will and Dalton that, I want to spend every day, twice a day, going out and practicing holding, just because I'd never really done it before. So, and I knew that, obviously there could be an opportunity where I would be the starting punter and starting holder. So I treated it as such, and I gave it the effort that it required, because I knew that there might be a situation like we had on the weekend where, I'd want to be confident, and confidence comes from practice. So, yeah, I think we definitely did our due diligence with how much effort we've put in and how much work we've done since January, since I got here. So credit to those guys as well.
Were you surprised at all at how much work it took to become the starting holder? Because you came here, you obviously were a Division I punter at Pitt and everything, and so I imagine you probably felt like you had that going down and whatnot. Were you surprised at just what it took to feel like you were a competent holder? I feel like that's probably the most overlooked position in football in some ways, right?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is an underrated aspect of the job of being, I guess, a punter / holder. I'm not surprised by the work it took. I think I felt pretty confident probably by March in my abilities to hold, but just with the personality that I am, I want to be perfect. So I'm never going to not do the hours that it requires to be the best at it that I can be, even now as well.
We'll take our last questions from Jake Hatch.
Yeah, Sam, I wanted to ask you, rivalry game, did it live up to the hype? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it lived up to the hype. Yeah, it was good fun. It was as I touched on it earlier, that it was there was a bit of animosity there from the crowd and things like that, which kind of made it fun as well in a way, just because the extra adrenaline and things like that. So it definitely lived up to the hype for sure.
Coach Papinga has been essentially a revelation in terms of special teams this year. 2 kick returns for a touchdown, punt return for a touchdown. You're running fake punts. You got your guy Will Farron also running fake kicks at times. What makes him so good at what he does?
Yeah, I think Coach Pop, and I think the coaches would attest to this as well, that he's just a workhorse when it comes to his craft. He's always in here earlier than everybody else, dialing up, schemes and plans for, different teams. And I think his ability to be able to get the best out of his players is probably what separates him as a coordinator. And I think he plays to a lot of our strengths, and even the fakes that we do probably play to all of our strengths. Although practicing that through the legs was ugly at the beginning, it ended up being pretty good. So, yeah, I think Pop is just very good at understanding what we're all, I guess, capable of doing and then implementing it.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
great week.
Thank you.